Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third webinar this summer. I'm Awesome, How to Promote Yourself Online. My name is Megan Kowalski, and I'm the Outreach and Reference Librarian for the UDC Library. As you heard, this session is being recorded, and we will have time for questions at the end, both recorded and unrecorded. But if any questions come up as I'm presenting, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. I will be able to see them. So, what we're going to cover today, why would you promote yourself online? The digital world is the first place many people look to learn about you, and that includes employers, possible collaborators. If you're a student, professors might even look for you, and peers, both your student peers and any peers you might have in the working world. And your online presence acts like a living resume, a CV, or portfolio, showcasing your skills, achievements, and professional identity. And we're also going to discuss strategic planning, defining what you want to achieve in doing this work, and aligning your online presence with your personal and professional goals. We're going to look briefly at choosing the right platform because not all platforms serve the same purpose. And once you've decided on what platform you're going to use, we're going to look at crafting and refining your digital portfolio. This is an ongoing process, but it lets you highlight achievements and evidence with links to credible sources or your work samples. Before we move on to the content, I do want to, ask, why is the library hosting this? Well, libraries promote digital literacy, and that's the ability to find, evaluate, and ethically use information online. We also support research visibility, and that means helping students and researchers share their work with the world. Part of, living in the information world is sharing what you know with others. And libraries empower users to build trustworthy and professional online identities grounded in these sound information practices. So we hope you come away with some of that to promote yourself today. So, to be successful at promoting yourself online, you first need to start with a strong foundation. So, first, you want to consider what is your purpose or what is the purpose of your personal or professional brand. There are a lot of P's in a row there. So, your brand is how you present your professional identity online. It's a combination of your skills, your experiences, your values, and your personality. That part is very important. And a strong brand helps others understand who you are and what you offer both quickly and clearly. And having a brand identity builds trust and credibility in your work and in your expertise. And so a strong brand helps you showcase those skills in a specific defined area. Essentially, having this brand shows what you are excellent at, and everyone is excellent at something. So, to that end, you want to ask yourself, why do you want to promote yourself and what do you want to showcase? You need to know these things to harness the story you want to tell about yourself. And so you then can align your online presence with your goals. Consider, why are you doing this? Are you job seeking? If you're doing online promotion and you're job seeking, you're going to want to highlight relevant skills, internships, projects, and experiences. You might also want to pick keywords from your field to improve your visibility, say if you're promoting yourself on LinkedIn. And you can also showcase recommendations or endorsements that reinforce your expertise. If you're doing this work for networking, you want to share your insights, you want to be able to comment on the work of others and engage with communities or groups that are relevant to your interests. And this means connecting your work with the work of others, creating that ongoing conversation. While you're doing this, you want to maintain professionalism, but also show off your personality. Or say you want to share your research or your creative work. A lot of students and faculty members have a lot of creative work. You can use platforms that allow you to showcase your work fully, so personal websites or research repositories. And this can provide context and explanations so your audience understands the significance of your work. In research, we're constantly talking about the impact of the work you're doing. What does this say about the industry or field? And in doing some of this, sharing research creative work, if you want to go into business, you can create a toehold for a business that sells products or services or the skills you personally have. And another part of having a strong foundation before you begin building your online portfolio is remembering to be consistent and clear, no matter what platform you are using. So that means considering what is your name? If you got married, you might have a name you previously had work under. So pick one name to sell yourself in. Having this similar or the same photo, I would recommend across all your platforms, and using a professional headline or description that makes your profiles recognizable instantly and cohesive, no matter what platform you're using. And consistent messaging reduces confusion and builds your brand identity. It also ensures accuracy to make sure, none of your profiles are outdated or has conflicting information that could harm your credibility or your brand. And so doing this work in a strong foundation, it means regularly reviewing your profiles to keep them current and relevant. So, to get started, you're going to want to do some strategic planning and some common pitfalls you're going to want to avoid as you start doing this work. Is first, as I mentioned previously, inconsistent messaging or incorrect information across platforms, because confusing or conflicting information weakens that brand profile and can cause distrust. And an example of this is having different job titles in different locations, or say, you have an online website where you say you worked in one position, but your resume has a different job title. That can muddy the waters. And so you want to make sure that's clear. Make sure your skills are listed clearly and make sure you have one profile photo that is relatively up to date. You also want to consider what tools you're going to use because you don't want to waste time on tools or content that don't align with your overall goals. Don't spread yourself too thin by trying to be everywhere all at once. Focus on platforms and content that directly support your goals and objectives. You also want to consider your audience. Misaligned content or tone can bring followers or contacts who don't quite fit your goals, which wastes all that effort and opportunity. You're also going to want to keep in mind the why you are doing this and the who you want to attract. So always keep the end goal in mind. So, to get things started in that area, first, define your goals. Start with the end in mind. Are you trying to land a job, attract freelance clients, sell a product, or just build your personal brand? Clarify what success looks to you. You're also going to want to consider both short term and long term objectives. So, in the short term, are you trying to build visibility quickly, through posting a lot or engaging with others? But is your long term goal, say, growing a mailing list or just establishing authority in specific field? Or are you trying to develop and sustain a network of contacts that you can work with and collaborate over the long term? You can do both short term and long term objectives at the same time. Just make sure that you have goals for each kind of objective. And when you're setting these goals, set measurable, realistic goals so you can track your progress and stay motivated. So, what is the one thing you want to achieve, and when do you want to do it by? And keep that in mind. You also, when you're planning, need to know your audience. So identify who you want to reach. Is it job recruiters? Is it clients? Is it collaborators? Or are you simply to work within a niche community? Tailor your message and your content to their interests, the languages they use, and the needs that they have. Different industries have different languages and standards, so know how to talk to those. You also want to research where your audience spends their time online. Don't bother working with a platform that your audience is not on. Not a lot of job recruiters are on TikTok. That's not saying you can't use TikTok, but maybe you want to be on LinkedIn instead. You can still do video content, but recruiters are on LinkedIn. They're not necessarily on TikTok. And most importantly, you want to know yourself. Reflect on your unique skills, your style, your voice, your approach to work, and your accomplishments. What do you do best? And it can simply be sit down and write down your wins list. What are you good at? What do you excel at? What have you accomplished? And having that, document with you can help you develop your portfolio as you go. And you can also use that to develop your elevator speech. And an elevator speech is a clear and concise pitch about who you are and what you do. And don't forget to end with what you want to achieve. And having that wins list can help you develop this. An elevator speech is, no more than 3 minutes. And you can use that in so many areas. You're also going to want to inventory what you have to showcase. So, writing samples, projects you've done, videos you've made, photos you've taken, presentations you give. It can again be helpful to write all of this down. But when it comes to promoting things, be selective. Not everything needs to be shared. You're focusing on quality over quantity. You want to highlight your best side. Essentially, you're saying, I'm awesome. Here's why. And you don't need to showcase everything. And so once you have this strategic plan in place, you can create an actual inventory and plan. List the assets you have, decide which platform is suited for each of those assets, and then plan your content schedule, what you're going to post when, around your goals and your audience's preferences. And while you're doing this work, you're going to want to consider balancing your personal and professional content thoughtfully. You can be personable online to, give life to your online presence, but you're gonna want to maintain a level of professionalism, or at least the brand image that you've decided to settle on. And so now we're going to look at some platforms where you can showcase your work. And we're going to start with LinkedIn. So, why LinkedIn? Well, first, you probably already have a LinkedIn account. It's widely used by students, professionals, and recruiters. It's easy to set up and update regularly, and it also integrates with your resume. You can use it as a living resume. There is also built in networking. People in your field are likely already active on this platform. Plus, if you're looking for jobs, employers and recruiters often use LinkedIn to verify your experiences or to just outright find candidates. If you put that tag on there, you're open to work, people can find you. And some key features to take advantage of on LinkedIn are the headline and the summary. And these make, you use keywords to make yourself searchable, and your headline is searchable. And then you can include a summary, which is a story about you. It's a compelling story. Again, going back to that elevator speech. LinkedIn also lets you list your work experience and accomplishments. And here you can focus on outcomes, not just tasks. So you want to have quantifiable results wherever possible, but put them in context of a story, because a story sells your skills better than just a list of, hey, I can do this. Plus, LinkedIn allows you to link out to relevant projects and portfolios if you have them. Plus, you can add skills and endorsements. You can literally click and add, I have these skills, and you can ask your peers and coworkers for endorsements. Another great aspect of LinkedIn is it does have social networking features, so you can share updates and posts. So you can share accomplishments as they happen, insights that you might have, events you're going to or have been to, or interesting reads that you might have commentary to add. And on here, you can, maintain a professional tone, but also be authentic, and you can have conversations with others in your field. And once you've engaged people in conversation, you can drive them from LinkedIn to other assets you may have. And with LinkedIn, like all social media, there is an algorithm, and it rewards people who post consistently and engage with others. But if you want to have more than what LinkedIn offers, you could consider a personal website or portfolio. So, a personal website is a standalone site that can serve as your central hub. Think of it like your digital business card and archive. It's great for organizing your work, especially if you're in a creative or academic field and have a lot of things to show off. Some platforms you could consider are WordPress, Squarespace, Weebly, Wix, or Google Sites. All of these have free or low cost options. And you can choose based on your comfort with design. A lot of these are simply plug and play, but some of them require coding. You can also consider your budget. Again, most of these have a free option, and that's going to be perfectly suitable for your needs. And you can customize things based on your needs. You might go a freemium model where you don't need the full field of, what they offer, but you need a little bit extra. And when you have one of these sites, you might want to consider purchasing a domain name simply so you can say, hey, go to myname.com or myname.net. It makes it really easy to hand these things out when you're talking to people. And on a personal portfolio or website, you're going to want to consider including a short bio and your contact information. Here, you're going to want to use a professional email, maybe not one you set up in high school that has a lot of weird words, but something at your name at outlook.com or at gmail.com. You're going to want to consider a CV or a resume that's clearly formatted, and I would recommend having a version people could download and print off. You're going to want to consider project highlights, where you give brief descriptions, images, and links if they are available. You're going to want to consider publications and presentations with proper citations and links to, where they might live if you present it at a conference. If you're in a creative field, you could consider things like photos, videos, or digital work samples. You could also add a blog. This is optional, but this can give you a chance to demonstrate your ongoing expertise, reflection, or learning journey. And always include contact information. If you're promoting yourself, particularly through a personal website or portfolio, make it easy for people to contact you. I highly recommend either having an email up there or a contact submission form. Um, Phone numbers you can include if you're comfortable with that, but putting your personal phone number online, that is your level of comfort. You can also consider social media. Twitter, X are the big ones, or the same platform, or any of the new version like Threads or Blue Sky. These tend to be go-to platforms for sharing your work, networking, or discussion. These can still be useful in academic, tech, or creative fields, but again, because they're algorithm based, the return on investment is less predictable. So explore where your community might be on one of these platforms and consider if it's going to be useful for you. Instagram is another great platform. This is ideal for creatives, artists, designers, photographers, simply because, it's known for being able to show off photos and videos. You can use reels, carousels, or stories to showcase the process of your work and, show the final result. And you can help maintain a consistent visual style to strengthen that brand image you've created. If you're in the academic field, you might want to consider a scholarly profile. And options for this include Google Scholar, ORCID, ResearchGate, or academia.edu. Each of these platforms has different features, so choose based on your available field and needs. The two big ones here that are most well known are Google Scholar and ORCID, so it's always a good idea to start with those. And if you plan on publishing in scholarly journals, many these days actually require your ORCID ID, so go ahead and set that up ahead of time. And why you might want to use these is they act as your living CV, and many of them can even auto update and track citations. So again, if you're seeing your impact, you've published this article, well, it can tell you who's been citing your work, and that can be really useful. And it can help you connect with other scholars, especially in niche areas. For example, in Google Scholar, the more publications you add, suddenly you'll start getting alerts being like, hey, Google Scholar found an article you might like, and you can find collaborators that way or other research you might want to look into. So when it comes to creating one of these platforms, they all have different formats you're going to use, but you're going to want to use generally the same kind of content. So first, you're going to want to write a compelling bio about yourself. And you can balance your personal voice with your professionalism. Your bio should reflect who you are, what you do, and most importantly, what makes you unique. Keep it concise, clear, and audience appropriate. A good formula for this is, your role or your identity, your area of expertise and focus, and what you're currently working on or seeking to do. Again, it's just a quick 3-step thing. You can write a good bio in 4 to 5 sentences. And you can customize this by platform. LinkedIn bios tend to be slightly more formal and keyword driven, where Instagram bios can be shorter and more casual. On a personal website or portfolio, your biography can offer a deeper narrative or origin story. So you can take those 3 to 5 sentences and maybe make it 3 to 5 paragraphs to talk about who you are and how you got to where you are today. Some tips for great biographies include writing in the first person to be approachable, unless a formal context requires third person. You can include a couple of personal touches to humanize yourself, talk about if you have any pets or kids, things like that. And it's always important to proofread your work for tone, clarity, and typos because your bio is your first impression. Another thing you're going to want to include is a good profile photo. And part of this is we always react well to visuals, but it's also a lot of people have the same name, and having your photo can make it easier for people to understand, oh, I have the right person once they've met you. And when you pick a good profile photo, you want one that is clear and professional looking because that builds trust, and having that consistent photo can help people recognize you across platforms. And again, it creates a cohesive identity. So in a photo, you want it to be clear, well lit, lighting is important, and a recent image. I personally have to admit I'm getting a brand new headshot next week simply because the photo I've been using is over 10 years old. And generally, you're going to want to have an image that is within the past 5 years. You're also going to want one that has minimal background distractions. Having a blurry background is a good thing. In that photo, you're going to want to dress appropriately for your field. If you're a photographer, maybe consider having your camera as a prop. You're also going to want to avoid using filters or having a casual selfie unless that fits the platform you're using. Again, some more creative or informal communities, that's okay. And having a professional headshot is great if you can afford it, but a phone picture with good lighting taken by a friend or set with a timer is almost always just as good. Just make sure, again, your head is clear and the lighting shows off, that smile or whatever great facial expression you're giving. When you're crafting and you're finding your work here, highlight your achievements without sounding boastful. It might be hard to brag about yourself, but I promise you can frame your achievements in terms of impact and growth. So you can say, I did these great things which helped contribute to, or collaborated on, or helped increase, because you're showing the value of your work. You're not just bragging, you're being like, I have impact. And so focus on what you learned or how your work made a difference. You can also use evidence, link to finished projects, articles, portfolios, statistics, wherever possible to be like, yes, I'm talking about how I'm awesome and now I'm proving it. Let the work speak for yourself. You can be confident, but you can be honest in what you're showcasing. You also want to keep it authentic and, specific. Avoid vague terms like expert unless that's actually supported by your credentials or endorsements. Use storytelling. Share a brief context about a challenge you solved or a project you're proud of. This can help showcase your growth. And always cite your support with sources. Credit collaborators or teams where important. Maintain accuracy. Don't inflate your role in a project. If you simply assisted with something, it's okay to say that you still helped that project. And again, cite your sources wherever possible by referencing stats, data, or publications. Again, you're showcasing you're awesome. You're proving it at the same time. So, this day and age, it feels like everybody has a newsletter. Do you need one? Well, the answer here, like almost everything in life, is maybe. A newsletter isn't essential for everyone, but it can be a powerful tool if it aligns with your goals. So, first ask yourself, does this fit my brand? And then ask, okay, if it fits your brand, will it help me stay connected with the people I want to reach? Be intentional. Don't start a newsletter just because others have one. So, what can a newsletter do? First, it can share updates, projects you've done, publications you just finished, speaking events, blog posts. You can share updates about what you're working on. It can also help you build an audience because it lets your voice, values, and work shine through on a regular schedule. It helps you stay visible, which can keep you at the top of mind for collaborators, clients, or hiring managers. And you can also provide value to the people you're trying to connect with by sharing resources, advice, insights, or simply inspiration. So, a newsletter makes sense when you have recurring content to share, new work, ongoing research, or consistent professional activity. It also makes sense if you teach, lead, or organize events and you want to direct an audience to that area. It can also help if you want to build an independent platform, not reliant on the social media algorithms, because people are opting in to the content you are sharing. And having a newsletter is kind of future proofing for an audience simply because you have their email. Now you have a way into their inboxes. So if you do consider a newsletter, there are more platforms out there. than I can think of, but some free and easy options include Substack. It's intuitive to use, it's good for writers and thought pieces. It is also kind of trendy right now, but it can be monetized if you're looking to take it in that area. MailChimp also offers a free tier, and this is more design oriented and it's widely used for marketing. There are also platforms like Beehive and Review, which is through X, and these are simple tools with minimal setup. Depending on what you're working on, you could go with more advanced options, and these, do require some investment funds. So ConvertKit, which is great for creators and building a business, or WordPress plugins. So if you already have a blog or a website, oftentimes a WordPress plugin is available to make a newsletter there, but that does require some coding work. If you do start to go this route, some tips to start. Start small. Monthly or even quarterly is enough usually to maintain visibility. Keep things simple. One or two updates, a key idea, or a curated resource is enough. And across your newsletters, to maintain your brand, you're going to want to use consistent formatting and tone. Bonus points here if you go ahead and make yourself a style guide so you can always, say, I'm using these words in the same way. In a newsletter, you're going to always want to, again, include your contact info, links to your work, a website, or a LinkedIn. Again, if gives something for people to click on to learn more about you. Also, you're going to want to include a way to unsubscribe. This is important both for privacy reasons and for compliance. Many places, think I'm going to hide the unsubscribe so I don't leave my subscribers. Don't do that. Be a nice person and include an unsubscribe link. But maybe a newsletter is not right for you, but you still want to do this kind of work. Some alternatives to having a full newsletter include using LinkedIn. Easy to set up again, and you can send updates directly to your connections. You can also consider a blog. You can use your personal website or another platform to publish updates or reflections. Or you could also consider your email signature, where you link to recent projects, articles, or your website just to have that constant passive visibility. And so I know I talked about a lot, and I'm going to show you a few examples here. Now, don't worry, since you are attending this or you've registered for it, I'm going to include links to all of these. So don't feel like you have to scramble to save the addresses. So let me just make sure. All right. So first, this is a big one. You do not need to be this fancy. This is just a super fancy portfolio someone has. Science Sam. She has an about page where you can learn both about her and her PhD research, because again, she's in academia. Speaking events, TV and video, how she has things organized. Again, very clear contact information and links to other platforms she is on. You do not need to be this fancy. This is just a good one simply because she does so much and she puts everything in one place. So yes, she's on all of these other platforms, but you can find everything you need to know about her here. One that's less fancy, but just as useful here is Aaliyah Baker. And here she has picked dance and community. She showcases what she's about right up front. And then here you see that bio where you can learn about her. 3 paragraphs, but it tells you a ton of what you need to know. And that contact information right here at the bottom. And again, links to other resources. Up at the top, you'll see you can learn more about her. And look, the projects she's worked on, both related to dance style, it's simpler than the other one, but as you can see, everything is here. Now, the next person I'm going to show you, I'm going to showcase 2 different platforms. This is Rachel Carton, and she's a social media consultant. But as you'll see here, she's the author of LinkedIn Bio. These are the 2 things she's known for. So that's what she sells herself as right up top. She has a short about me, skills she's listed here, and you can see her activity where she's engaged with others. And you can see she's developed quite a big audience on LinkedIn. And you can see her experience, her resume, showcasing the work she has done, her education, her skills, and her recommendations and endorsements. This is a typical LinkedIn page. It's well developed. She's very active here on LinkedIn. As you'll see, she links out to her website, but that's not her main platform. Her main platform is her LinkedIn Bio newsletter. And here she showcases again, this is a newsletter that goes out several times a week, but you can learn more about her through the About page. And so she's in 2 places, but they're consistent across. Everything she shares has a nice brand image. Now, bringing things closer to home, this is Davide Brett. He is a UDC professor. And so you'll see here, you can join his mailing list or see his Facebook page or send him an email, but it's also showcasing his work, like his sculptures, as you'll see here. He's taken beautiful photos of everything he has made in his sculpture work, broken down, into different areas, including public art, digital art, jewelry. But what I love about this is he's also showcasing things like his academic work that he's done or his trophies and awards. He also has classes he hosts in Italy, and you can learn more about those here. I love it. He's also showcasing some of his students' work as well, because if he's an art teacher, he needs to show that his students are learning from him, and he's able to do that right here. He also has an About Me page and research publications, so you can learn more about him. And now I'm going to show you, this is a student profile. It's a simple Google site. It's not that complicated. There's a quick about me, a nice headshot, work that they have done, astrophysics, but also hockey, because, that's fun. And then contact me page. This does not take a lot of time to set up. A website like this, when you first get started, might seem difficult, but once you're into it, something like this might only take 3 to 4 hours to actually put together, as long as you have your work already curated. Now, this is just one student profile, but here I will send a link for 47 other different student pages, and they're all over the place. Some are very, very in-depth, lots of photos, lots of videos, and some are simple, just one-page documents listing everything they have. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my own website. Now, this is always a work in progress. Like I said, this photo is old. It's getting replaced soon. But I have a quick little bio here and links to my resume, some work I've done, and my presentations and publications. Same thing up here. You can get to all of that work here. I also happen to write 2 newsletters, so I've pulled them out right here. And I have a blog that, I write in fairly regularly. And again, I've made it clear, contact me. Now, I use the platform Weebly, and I do pay for some added features like having a site domain name, like megankowalski.com is mine. But I could do this for free. I could do almost the same level of work, and this requires minimal coding. A lot of it is just, I want a photo here. And they have pre-made templates. A lot of these websites have pre-made templates you can use, and then all you need to do is insert your own photos, your own links, and your own text. And now I want to jump back into our slides. Give me 1 second here to talk about now some key takeaways. So first things first, you're awesome. You already have the skills, experiences, and ideas worth sharing. So own that confidence. Self-promotion isn't bragging. It's giving others the chance to understand and appreciate what you bring to the table. Doing this work also means you control your narrative. Your online presence is an evolving story, and you get to tell it. This is not something that happens to you. You get to be an active participant. So be intentional. What do you want people to learn about you when they search your name? Google yourself and see what it says right now. If you're missing, hey, you got a blank slate to start with. So use platforms and content to guide how you are perceived. And then, what do you want this work to do? Always go back to your goal. Are you job hunting, building community, or showcasing the work you have done? Let your goal shape what you post, where you post, and how often you engage. Every tool you use, whether it's LinkedIn, personal websites, or a newsletter, should have a purpose. And again, make sure you are highlighting versus being comprehensive. You do not need to showcase everything, just the things that support your goals and show your best work. So think of your online presence like a highlight reel. It's curated and focused. Too much detail can be overwhelming, so have just enough to spark interest. People who want to know more will contact you. And when you're doing this kind of work, pick what's sustainable and then grow from there. It's okay to start small with a single website or just a LinkedIn page. Focus on what you can manage consistently without being burnout. So pick one thing and then grow from there, because this work is always ongoing. To help you with this, and again, these links will be in an email I send out with the recording, there are a couple of resources I want to mention. The UDC Library has a digital projects guide. I want to thank my colleague Jacob Hopkins for designing this amazing website, and it can walk you through different digital media where you might be able to present yourself, including things like a podcast or an infographic or a website. LinkedIn Learning, and if you are a UDC student or faculty member, you can sign up for that through CAL, Center for the Advancement of Learning, or it's also available at many public libraries, including DCPL. LinkedIn Learning has a ton of self-paced tutorial videos where you can learn things like how to put an online portfolio together, how to best use LinkedIn, or how to network. It has more videos than I care to even think about. Another great website is Career Contessa. This is general job advice, but they have a lot of worksheets and tutorials specifically on how to build your online presence and how to write a compelling personal bio. HubSpot Academy is a marketing website, but it has skills and certifications around online work. So it can get you working in these fields so you can make the best use of these tools. And so I know that was a lot to throw at you. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this was useful. The library is here to help if you have any questions about, any of these tools that you might want to consider using. And we have time now for Q&A, both recorded and unrecorded. Again, the recording of today's session will be posted to our YouTube later this afternoon, and an email will be sent to anyone who registered, both with the link to that recording and some of the resources I mentioned in today's session. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat or don't hesitate to unmute yourself. I'd be happy to talk with you. Right, not seeing anything come in for the recorded session. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording in case there are any questions unrecorded. So again, thank you for attending.